Have you ever wanted to take $2 billion worth of product to market? Well, on today's show, I am bringing on Christina Kalsan. Christina's diverse and phenomenal career has spanned 2 decades in global and US trade and product marketing positions with leading consumer electronics and, of course, consumer goods brands such as Motorola, Crock Pot, and Pyrex, and of course, so much more. Her expertise in navigating global product launches through online retail and other distribution channels includes leveraging third-party relationships with partners such as NFL, MTV, the Food Network, and of course, the original shark from Shark Tank, Kevin Harrington. But on today's show, we are going through her journey of being in corporate for over 2 decades and then leaving corporate, starting her own entrepreneurial endeavors, and now focus on consumer products and travel. So get ready for an eye-opening and transformational interview with Christina Kalsan. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to my channel. Today, we have a special guest with us, which is something very new. I haven't done an interview on my channel yet, but Christina, I have been friends with her for quite a few years now, and I'm so excited to bring her on today's show. So, Christina, hello, how are you
Hello.
doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much for having me as your first guest.
I know, I know, it's so exciting. We were just talking about how I interviewed you a few years ago on Facebook, and it's been like a few years now, I feel like. So I'm really excited to just dive deep into your story and everything that, of course, you've gone through in your journey, but also everything that you're focusing on now. So let's first go through, talk a little bit about, I want to say this because I said this in the intro, $2 billion lady. Everybody is probably so curious, like, where does that come from, right? Like the 2 billion. So take us back to when you were in corporate and how you kind of just like took $2 billion like worth of product to market.
I spent a good 17 plus years in corporate and working for a lot of consumer electronics and like telecom, and then also consumer goods companies. And through all that, right, working with like Motorola, working with some of the brands that we know at like World Kitchen and Newell Brands, which are Crock Pot, Mr. Coffee, Calphalon cookware, Corningware, Pyrex, all those different brands that are really well known in the kitchen space industry.
Yeah.
So among all of those, I was kind of the go-to-market expert. So I would
Mhm.
take it to retail, I would take it to Amazon, I would take it direct to consumer online. With all of that, it was $2 billion worth of product that were placed in either retail stores or sold in online marketplaces.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
how one of my business coaches gave me the nickname, the $2 billion lady, and it has
Yeah.
stuck ever since.
Yeah, no, I love it. And I always was so fascinated about the entire product development and taking to market process. And I know a lot of people, and probably people that are watching this video and are on my channel, they want to take some sort of like product to market, right? Whether it's a digital product or even a physical product. So walk us through a little bit, because I'm just curious too, what actually is the process? Like if someone has an idea, once again, once for like a digital or a physical product, what is maybe like the 4 to 5 steps, or if you have like a framework you want to share with us, what's the actual process of idea to seeing your product in like Walmart?
Yeah, and matter of fact, I have originally, when I started, had produced a course to talk about this. And the number one, to kind of take you through that, the number one step, and you'll hear a lot of, business coaches talk about this, but the number one step is validating your idea. You don't want to spend money and time and resources on something that is not going to sell in the long run. So the first thing in terms of validating, what you really have to do is get clear on who you want to sell to, as we talk about, right? Your target
Mhm.
consumer, your avatar. You really want to know who that person, who are you trying to sell to? Let's talk about keto weight loss. Are you
Yeah.
selling to females? Are you selling to men? Who is it? What do they look like? What is their age group?
Mhm.
What do they do for a living? How do they research, information on keto, let's say?
Right.
And so it's really about understanding what it is that they are looking for, and then validating that person, and then understanding their pain points,
Yeah.
understanding what makes them tick, what would cause them to, they have a problem, they're looking for a solution. It goes down
Hmm.
that road. And then the best thing you can do is interview those people and find
Hmm.
out what their pain points are. And that will give you everything you need in terms of content and in terms of your future marketing messaging too, is how do you address their pain points and how are you the solution?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that whole validation process before you ever spend any time and resources.
Yeah, no, that's key right there. Cause I know I've also came to you asking like, hey, what do you think about this idea? And something you always say to me is like focus groups or go interview and ask people because I believe one of the biggest mistakes people do when it comes to like product creation, launching, they spend so much time creating. I mean, of course, I'm in the
Yeah.
online digital space, so they spend so much time creating the digital product. And then when they launch it, it just like flops or they don't know exactly who they're talking to and messaging because they didn't go through like the first step. So no, that's so key. So after they go through
Mhm.
and validate the idea, what's the next step?
Well, and then it depends on whether it's a physical product or a digital
Right.
product or whatever that is. A physical product, which you would basically do is kind of put together, okay, you've addressed the pain points. Here it is. With a physical product, you would actually put together some type of prototype. And that could be just, stuff in your kitchen that you're
Yeah.
putting together, and just kind of, or drawing it and saying, here are the things that I want it to look like, what I want it to be. When it comes to a digital product, I think it's a matter of outlining your content based on the interviews that you've done with your target market, your target consumer,
Yeah.
is start to outline, that
Yeah.
part of it. Talk about their problems up front, what it is that their pain points up front, and then go through the process of addressing all of those pain points in your digital product.
Hmm.
So those are kind of the two differences, because one, you have to really kind of mold and start working on a product, and the other one is really about delivering
Right.
the content.
Right. Right. Okay. So then after they go through that, what's like the final or like the last few steps?
Well, with a digital, it's
Pretty
simple because
simple.
you can go straight to market, right? However you want to. So now it's a matter of outlining your marketing plan or your content plan. Are you going to go organic on social, right? And the best part is you really have to go back to your target consumer, who it
Yeah.
is you're talking to. So what you learned from them and researched on them is, where did they go to find information on this topic, right? Like we talked about keto. So if they're researching it on social media, okay, so what platforms on social are they
Hmm.
using, right? And that's how you determine where you're going to go. Are you going to run ads? Is there a need to run ads? And if so, this is again why you need to be really clear on who that target person is. When it comes to product, it's a whole different ballgame. It's really, if there's a product that requires engineering and
Yeah.
planning, that engineering would be your next. It's about finding the right suppliers and all of that. So it's a completely different process, much more costly than digital, which
I'm
I
sure.
think, which is why everyone can easily start with digital.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so I think it depends on that process. So it's about now creating it and then going to market.
Yeah, so no, I love that you said with digital products, it is a simpler process. And of course,
Mhm.
with physical products, like it's once if you know the steps, it's simple. I feel like I always say that with like anything, if you know the steps to do it, it could take longer, but it's still like a
Mhm.
simple process. So, okay, so you did the corporate thing. And then I know we met through like a mastermind through our mentor. And that's when you were basically getting out of corporate and
Mhm.
starting your own thing, right? When it comes to entrepreneurship, starting your own business, whatever. Tell us a little bit about like how long you were in corporate for and what really made you want to get out of corporate to start your own business. Because I also know a lot of people probably watching, they might be working a corporate job, they're working a 9 to 5, and maybe they do have an idea to start a business, or they are just so burnt out. And I know that's a part of your story too. And
Mhm.
they just feel almost like trapped. And they don't know exactly how to get out of it. So share a little bit about, being in corporate, what made you get out, and then we can also maybe dive into like how to like set yourself up to actually make that transition too.
Well, the funny thing is I come from a family of entrepreneurs, so it's kind of funny that I ended up going the corporate route in the first
Yeah.
place. My parents are first generation. They're actually immigrants here, and they, ran their own businesses. And the great thing about it, so, I was the first to basically go the college route and
Mm,
start school. Originally I wanted to go to medical school, then I decided to get my MBA instead. So I really went the traditional route. I spent, like I said, almost 20 years in corporate, realizing that you can't always determine your path of, where you're going to end up, a path of your career when you're there.
mm,
It took going from company to company to really get those pay increases. And,
mm,
it's like you couldn't just stay with one company and decide that you were going to end up making, double what you think you're going to make.
right.
Realizing that you had to always not report to somebody, but really everything that you did, you had to convince 20 people that that was the right way to go. And even when you would show the data, right, there was always the questioning. It's too
Yeah.
many cooks in the kitchen. And
Yeah.
so I realized a long time ago that I really wanted to determine my own success. And I planned it for quite a few years beforehand. I really had to think about what is it that I wanted to do and how was I going to monetize it? How was I going to turn it into a career that would sustain me, losing a six-figure salary.
Mm,
So what was I going to do? So I started the process probably within that last year of being in corporate, that I decided, okay, this was the route I was going to take. But I took the skills that I had learned through, over a decade, and that's what I started with. I figured, you know what? I've been doing marketing and product marketing. I can monetize this as I'm walking out the door and turn it
mm,
into something until I figure out what it is down the road that I possibly may want to do as a passion. So,
mm.
I utilized all my corporate skills, and, even to this day, I'm still using them and helping other small brands and small businesses grow and go to market.
Yeah. I'm curious to know. I mean, I've never worked a corporate job, but I know like I've had a lot of clients that have worked jobs and then either made the transition or even just talked to a lot of people online that are currently working a job and they want to make the jump to, pursue their passions, do their own thing because they just feel in their heart that they're meant to do more.
Hmm.
Like, can you talk a little bit about if someone has that like fear, like they're kind of like, okay, like this is just so new, so different. Like maybe they didn't come from like a family of entrepreneurs. Maybe they're the
Right.
first person in their family to really do something new. Like, how did you kind of navigate either like the fears, but then also maybe like the judgment from other people too? Because I know, especially nowadays, starting something new on social media, there can be a lot of like judgment, like, oh, if someone's, they're getting on social media doing this like online thing. Talk a little bit about that because I know people have those like true fears, especially if they're kind of like the first one in their family to do something
Hmm.
new like this.
There are two things. It's being terrified of losing the paycheck, right?
Mm,
But in
very
this
true.
day
Yeah.
and age, look how many people are losing their jobs from layoffs and, other
Yeah.
things. So through COVID and all of that. So it is a terrifying thing. So in my case, I really prepared myself financially. I started,
Mm,
I put away and invested as much money as I possibly could to
hmm.
last me for at least a few years, right?
Yeah.
And I would say at least 2 years worth would be worth it. I know that's difficult to do, especially in, this day's economy, but as much as you can just set aside, and again, if you can start earning money before you leave, even better. But if you feel like that paycheck is the safety net, I agree. It can be, especially for someone that's been in corporate for so long, right? And hasn't
Right.
taken that plunge. Um, in terms of family, it's like I have a family that always supported me on those things, but I will tell you, it's like the circle group of friends
Mhm.
and coworkers very much changes. I think you become a little bit more isolated because nobody really understands what it is that you're going through.
Yeah.
um, it's always, and I've always had like you to lean on, in the sense of it is great to be able to brainstorm with someone who thinks just like you.
Right.
And to have even, that's why I joined a mastermind or a business group, because being around that energy of people who think like you, there's nothing more euphoric, right? Nothing better.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so you notice that your contacts tend to change too, and it's just you're looking for more like-minded people, because I think that people that are stuck in a corporate structure a lot of times won't be the people that you lean on in the future, right? They
Mm-hmm.
could be your personal friends still, but they don't understand the process that you're going through.
Yeah. I love that you brought that point up because it's so true. I know for me, even personally, when I started to, build my brand on social media in college, a lot of my college friends did not really understand what I was doing. And a lot of them, like, I'm no longer friends with them. And of
Right.
course, the ones that did support me, I'm still friends with them. But one thing that you said is so crucial and so key, especially when you're starting this journey of like entrepreneurship and starting your own business online, is having that support group and having that community that basically is either on the same path as you are or they've already done what you want to achieve, right? Because it is scary to like take that jump and, of course, do something that's like completely new and completely different. But you did it, Christina. So once you did do that jump, how did you basically transition, and what was like the first venture that you focused on when you made the jump?
A couple of, so I had similar to this, is really started to work with smaller startups, right? Smaller companies, completely new companies,
Yeah.
brands, people that really wanted to develop product and go to market with it. I ended up partnering and working with Kevin Harrington for a little bit, who was a contact that I made from Shark Tank. And through him, I met some other people, and it really kind of built my network. Funny thing was even word of mouth,
Mhm.
my coworkers who basically came to me with some different type of, they were working on different endeavors and hired me to come on and help them take some products to market. And so it was like that. In addition to that, not shortly after, but a year or two after that, I started to do some freelance work.
Yeah.
So if you look at like the things on like Fiverr and Upwork and all of that, right? So I started to work that way. And I'll tell you, it's like in the first 48 hours of posting, I ended up with my first client. And it was incredible, because when you have that background, and as
Mhm.
competitive as everyone says Upwork or Fiverr could be, when you have that background, people really kind of come to you. It's so I've had a lot of clients approach me and ask me to
Yeah.
come work with them. So that was a great avenue, and that has really given me a lot of bandwidth, right? So that I really like it. And it's almost solely now where I end up getting my clients. And so
Yeah.
I'm working with companies and brands that are actually coming out and starting, for anywhere from like copywriting to marketing strategy to everything.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how the transition happened. And I've been very happy going that route. I could not see myself, going back into an office environment after having this flexibility.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. One thing that came up to mind, which I'm sure a lot of people are probably thinking of too, once you made the transition and you started to partner with people like Kevin Harrington and other people that you met, you, of course, weren't with like a company anymore. So you basically had to structure out like your own pay and your own like job role and your own boundaries and everything that came with it. Walk us through a little bit about like how you did that. Because I know some people, especially once again, if this is like the first time they're doing something completely on their own, they might just be clueless on how to do that. Plus, especially if they left a corporate environment where they were super burnt out and
Mhm.
they maybe were like taken advantage of and they're doing so much more work than they were actually
Yeah.
getting paid. What would you say, and what did you kind of do to like navigate that when you were on your own and you weren't working with a company?
It's really simple. The funny thing is, the tagline of the $2 billion lady is probably the best thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah.
So the funny thing about it is that I really do think branding yourself is the best and biggest thing you could do as you're moving away. It's
Hmm.
really about figuring out your strengths, your weaknesses. So in a corporate environment, you may have to do things that you don't like, right? Things that you like.
Yeah.
But really, when you go on your own, you really get to pick and choose what it is that you want to do. I know to this day, like when I'm sitting here doing things for a client, if I'm writing, there are certain things that I love writing, there are certain things I don't love writing, right? I know what it is I love to do and what gives me energy every day.
Yeah.
It comes with trial and error. But, I think, and on top of it too, when we market ourselves, we're our own worst critics, right? We're the worst marketers when it comes to marketing. I could tell you all day long how to market yourself, but when it comes to me trying to determine that, this is where it really helps to bring in a coach,
Yeah.
or someone that really knows branding really well, because they will tell you, because it was our mentor who came up with my tagline. And I would have never came up with that on my own. First of all, I think it's hysterical because I would be like, oh my God, 2 billion, that just
I
seems so
love it.
extensive and extravagant. I would never feel comfortable enough to say that. This is why I think it having having a male figure say this to me, right? Because it kind of blows up your
Yeah.
reputation. I'm like, that's a really good idea. And it's stuck and people still know it to this day.
Yeah.
So I think it's really about branding yourself, and then really now I determine my schedule and what I want to work on and what I don't want to work on, right, on a daily basis. I've set it up, and you have to be disciplined enough and you figure it out to really structure my day and what that looks like. And
Yeah.
whether I'm working on a client's work or whether I'm working on my own.
Yeah. One thing you just said, that a question popped up that I want to dive a little deep in, because I know we've talked about it before.
Mhm.
You mentioned, of course, like, of course, our mentor, and he's awesome. He helped you with the branding, everything.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to know, especially females that are watching this, they probably are, they probably have a question of how are us as females supposed to like stand out and basically, claim our spot in the industry when it is so like male dominant, when there are a lot of, males taking over in their industry, their niches. And of course, I'm sure in the corporate industry that happens a lot, but even in the online space too. So I want to know, how did you navigate it when you were in corporate? Because I'm sure what you learned in corporate, you also bought it when you transitioned out of corporate.
It's very different, in the sense, like, if I really think about who it was that was leading the organization, it was predominantly a male executive team.
Hmm.
I was one layer away from the CEO when I left. I had a male boss, and the CEO was male, although I loved him. I thought he was great. He was a great listener, but I did not have a ton of time with him because he was so busy.
Right.
Um, but the thing about it is that it's very different. The funny part about it is, and it's not even that funny, is, we're hearing about all these different movements that women are going through right now. You're hearing about 4B, all of this, it's on TikTok.
Right.
But as a woman, you had to learn, or I had to, and I know that I was not the only one that would say this, you really have to learn how to speak male language.
Hmm.
And it's interesting because we love to go into a little bit more detail. I think we really kind of we build a relationship and a rapport.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't have that. And it's really about, okay, my boss has, not saying he did, my boss has ADHD. I know he has a 30-second attention span. I have basically 30 seconds to get my point across to him, right?
Hmm.
And it had to be factual, it could not be emotional. And it's just a different way to communicate.
Mm.
As much as you would tell a woman, oh my God, I'm so frustrated by this, those are things that you learn not to say, right? As a
Yeah.
female to a male, in the corporate world, I think. So, and especially when they're your superiors. So there were a lot of different ways. I think it was exhausting to
Mhm.
really have to think about, man, how do I present myself and how do I do this in the best way that is effective to him? And effective communication, I think, was one of the most difficult things that you could really master in a corporate environment.
Yeah.
When it comes to going off on your own, it's a whole different ballgame, because if you are a female, your target market could be completely female. It's, you get to pick and choose who that is. And this is why it's so important to really get to understand and know who your target audience is, because if they're male, then you need to understand their mind.
Mm.
Um, if they're female, that's a whole different story. And I think, like, after seeing after Barbie movie coming out and all of that, I
Yeah.
think we do see that there's an entire different dynamic and world when it comes to women and marketing to women and supporting women. it's a whole different ball game. And so I think that it completely leaving corporate takes you out of that box,
Mhm.
and you get to pick and choose whoever you want to, right? As a target market. And it's a very liberating process to have to be able to go through.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that you said like when you were in corporate, it was like you were like you basically had to present yourself a proper way to like to your boss or whoever you're reporting to. And then it's kind of
Male
flipped when
speak,
you
right?
yeah, yeah, and then it's kind of flipped when you're on social media. It's like you're basically the boss and you present yourself how you want to, and then you attract those people. And that's what I absolutely love. And of course, that's what I learned when I was building my brand on social media. Like I didn't have like any structure at all whatsoever. I just started to create content online. And I want to say my content and my story just started to like mold my audience. And that's how I started to attract like the right type of people. But I even know I probably shared it in one of my videos before that when I did get into business, of course, just even online, I did start to attract like the wrong type of people, especially males in the industry who just didn't take me seriously. And I know a lot of like females, especially my age too, and I'm sure older as well, they experience this too, where, they are putting out their content and their products and their offers,
Mhm.
but then of course, just don't attract like the right type of people. And one thing I want to say is like, no matter, even if you are targeting females, because I know this still happens to me till this day, you're always
Mhm.
going to attract like haters or wrong attention. And I want to say that's one thing that you kind of just have to get used to when you are
Yeah,
kind of your own boss. Because I know, of course, in like corporate, there's like HR and other things that you can do, hopefully, of course,
right.
depending on how that works out. But when you're on your own, there are a lot of things that you kind of just want to know and kind of expect going into it, just so like, that doesn't really tear you down when you are posting and you come across things that maybe you don't want to experience. Um, so I love that you mentioned that. So, okay, let's backtrack a little bit and go back to what we were talking about because I know we kind of sidetracked. But okay, so you started, of course, working with, other businesses, getting other clients, everything else. As you were, as actually after you transitioned and now you've been, an entrepreneur on your own for quite a few years now, what would you say is like the number one thing, or even like a couple of things, whatever comes to mind, that you would want to tell somebody who is maybe in their first year of doing this? Like if you were to go back and either change things that you wish you would have done,
Mhm.
what would you say to that person?
And it's interesting because I think it goes back to what you do in that first year looks completely different than what it does down the road, year
Yeah.
2, 3, 4, and 5, because you really start to understand what it is you do and do not want to do. And not even just from the point, like when it came down to working with clients, I got to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm done working with clients. I don't
Mm.
want to work with clients. I want to monetize myself without having to work with a client every time. So I started to think about what is it that I like to do and how do I monetize that, right? So those are the different type of things that year one, and I think year one is your most difficult because you really have to start to understand, like to really discipline yourself to do the work and to focus on focus on make very clear to yourself what it is that you want to do and how you want to monetize. I think it's really about that entire learning process. And that's why I say, like, if you can even start to monetize yourself even a little bit
Mhm.
before you walk away from a corporate job, at least you have momentum and you have some clarity in what it is that you're doing. It could change 2 years down the road, but that's okay.
I want to
You're giving
quickly jump in and
buffer.
just say, because one thing I know you haven't mentioned yet, but I know you did do in like, I think it was your year one or even right before you left corporate, you came out with a course, right? So you were
Yes.
monetizing. So talk a little bit about that
Yep.
piece, because some people might be thinking like, how do I monetize myself? Like even
Right.
maybe before they like leave corporate or within
That's
their
a really
first
good
year.
thing. And I think the digital product side of it, and I think that building a course or the digital products, right? The course for us was high ticket. Digital products I've done are low ticket, and I'm
Yeah.
talking, no more than 40, 30, $47 from like anywhere from like 17 to $47, right? you can always upsell there. But for me, the funnel process was very different because I was looking at clients that I would work with long term.
Right.
So for me, it was a little bit different in that sense. But what I started to do then, as I walked away from, not walked away, but wanted to move away from as much client intensive work,
Yeah.
I started to think about, okay, I'm a product person. What else can I do?
Mm.
So then I started to think about the Amazon influencer program, right? And all of those things. How do I find ways to monetize myself that's not always dependent on a client? So started to go that route. So take the $2 billion lady and start to take those products that you love, right? And start to monetize it that way. So I think through from year one to year, 3, 4, I started to learn that there are so many other different avenues and ways to monetize. And it's a learning process. It takes time to learn how to do those things, and now TikTok shop is around, and those are huge ways to do it. And so many people have made a ton of money doing that. So it was just a matter of what was right for me, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the great thing about this time frame in the world, in history of the world, is that I'm a Gen Xer. So it's like one of those, we have more ways to monetize now than we ever have in our history,
Yeah.
right? As a
Yeah.
country, as a planet. So if we can't do it now, when are we going
Yeah.
to do it? The good thing is you don't always have to rely on a college degree, and you don't always have to rely on a corporation.
Mm.
There are other ways to do it.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of finding what's right for you. So,
Right.
I like digital, and I think it was the fact that it's so low cost of entry, and so fast and easy to launch.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Cause I just remember when you did launch like your first course, it was higher ticket, but then I know you created kind of like another version of that and you
Yeah.
started to sell low ticket and you're just getting like sales coming in, coming in, coming in when you focused on that. And I'm like, it's crazy because one thing I also talk about, and I just posted a reel about this actually on my Instagram, is a lot of people that are working corporate they don't even realize they have so many skills that they can monetize, right? Because of
Correct.
course, like you, Christina, you're in the product development marketing space, but like within that, you have so many skills that you can even create just like mini digital courses or programs or guides, anything inside of that. And other people that work corporate too, or just a job, even if you don't work corporate, you just work as like a barista or somewhere else, like you have different skills that you use every single
Oh yeah.
day and people are willing to pay you money to learn those skills.
Yes.
Because just like what you said too, not many people, like, of course, people are still going to college and university, but in reality, like, they're spending like hundreds of thousands of dollars sometimes going to university and like online courses, digital products, like, they're very inexpensive, right?
Right.
Versus just going to like college or university. But one thing that came up, yeah, was there something you wanted to
No,
add in
well, I
there?
was going to say a
Yeah.
good example of this is think of yourself as a consumer watching social media, right?
Yeah.
So what I've been so attracted to, what you talked about, the barista thing is what kind of started this process. I love watching the coffee stuff. I'm a huge
Mm.
coffee fan, and have worked with coffee companies, and um, I love that stuff. So think about a barista developing content on how to do this and giving me a $7, right, entry level. This is how you do these coffee art, right? How many people
Mm.
would do for $7 do that? I would. And even better, what I've also looked, I have been like just infatuated with sourdough bread making.
I've been seeing the
So
focaccia, like the
the
homemade
focaccia,
focaccia bread.
right, and building, and I'm watching, and how when you watch one, you end up getting all these different creators, right, on
Yeah.
TikTok that are doing the same thing. But I look at them and I look at their pages, and either they're on Stan Store, Linktree, and they have they have their links in their profiles, and it's like, oh my God, how do I even start with a sourdough starter? And you go into their profiles and you see that you can actually buy it from them.
That's
So it's like, and
awesome.
they're making money off of it. There are so many ways to take what you love to do or what even your corporate skills, and turn it into something that you can monetize. Start low and go high at that
Yeah.
point. But there's so many different ways to do it, and I just love it. The other thing too, they have their Amazon stores linked to their profile. So if you're buying your starter kit on how to make sourdough bread and you buy it from Amazon, they also get a commission and an incentive. So like I said, multiple different ways of
Yeah.
making money.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. And you mentioned TikTok Shop. And I have seen so many products, like physical products, like blow up
Yes.
on like TikTok Shop.
Yes.
It's insane. It's so crazy. And I'm sure a lot of people also, as they're building their brands on social media, they might not want to come up with like their own product right away, but
Right.
maybe they do want to promote and get like affiliate commission and, do something, whether it's on TikTok Shop or like Amazon. What did you do, and what would you recommend people if they do want to promote a product? Like, how do you find trending products? I know, of course, you probably did a lot of that type of like research when you were in corporate too, but like nowadays, I feel like there's always like trending things or even like upcoming trends based on the seasons. How would you go about picking like a product to like promote?
Well, and it's two different ways now because with
Yeah,
social media, with keyword search on like somewhere like TikTok or YouTube, you can see what is trending and how many people are searching for it. Searching on Google, looking at Google search, Google Analytics, right? That's another way to look at what's trending on Google because obviously a lot of people are looking there. The number one place where people look for physical products is Amazon.
mm,
So you can go in there and take a look at what is trending and how many have been sold. You can see right away the units that are sold. And that tells you a lot about trends. And I think the best way is to kind of keep your pulse, like when it comes to a physical product, keep your eye on the marketplace. For instance, I'll give you an example that we did many years ago. At work, I noticed like everybody was buying the zucchini spiralizers, right? And they were the
I
handheld
bought one.
ones. Right, exactly. And so did I because that's the nutrition plan that I was following and I love it I use it to this day. And when I saw that that was a trend, I went to my company and we actually made small appliances and I said,
Wow.
why don't we put a plug on it and do an electric spiralizer,
Mm,
right? And so we did and we launched it very quickly and it was a matter of where I had major retailers saying, when it's ready, we'll take it. Didn't even see the product in its final form, but they're like,
yeah.
it's on trend. We've got it. We'll take it as soon as you have it.
Yeah.
And so it's really just about looking to see what's in your environment, but then using your tools, using social, right? Using TikTok, using Amazon, using Google, and trying to figure out what's trending. You'll see what's trending somewhere like TikTok. You will see it trending right away based on the content.
Oh, for sure.
And then go do a little bit more research. Take a look at how many people are looking for this and searching for it in TikTok, in Google, right, and everywhere else. How many people are searching for these keywords? And
Yeah.
keyword search is the best thing you could do.
Yeah. Especially TikTok. I feel like, especially recently within the past probably
Yes.
like 6 months, even,
Yeah.
the keywords and SEO, like search on TikTok, it's crazy. And I know
Yeah.
actually I just came across a video. I don't know if you saw this. If you search, I think it's creator search insight on TikTok.
Yes.
You can
That's right.
see the actual trending keywords. Like TikTok is giving you what is trending. So
Yeah.
based
I
on
just found that
what's
recently too.
Yeah, yeah, right. I came across a video someone talking about. I'm like, what is this?
Mhm.
So I searched it, and yeah, they literally are telling you exact trends that are happening right now. So to
Exactly.
all of you that are watching and you're like, "Oh, I don't know, what to create or I don't know what product to focus on." Just do some research, even spend just like 30 minutes on like TikTok or Google Trends. Sometimes I use as well and just see what's like popping off because that will then lead you into the first step in really validating your idea so that way you can go and create your actual product and your offer.
Mhm.
So no, I love that. And I always just like looking at trends. I like to see what's like up and coming because of course, like both of us, we like to create new and different things. So I'm curious to know, of course, you have seen like the market and trends, everything for quite a few years now. So where do you see the market headed, especially like the online space in the next like 5 to 10 years? Because I always see, especially on social media, videos coming across like this is what you should be focusing on this year or next year. And I know the creator economy, people think it's saturated and people think that they missed like the wave. But when I look at it, I'm like, I feel like it just started. Like it's
Mhm.
really just starting now. So where do you see the industry kind of headed in the next few years? And what should people really be focusing on right now?
I really think it's just about customizing your message, right? And customizing your business. Because if you really think about it, I always remember a couple of books that I read, at least 10 years ago that really talk about in the future, we won't be paid by going to a company and being productive for them, and manufacturing and all of that, because we see it, we're going to see, we see machinery taking over. We're going to see AI taking over a lot of that. It's really going to be about your unique content and your unique knowledge.
Mm,
I see something like, so, for instance, not that we want to talk about politics, but there are certain creators out there, and everybody has their own opinion, but there are creators out there that I follow who are attorneys and who are, really experts in their field, an oil industry person on TikTok who know what they're talking about. He's a CEO of his own company. And those are the experts that I go to for my knowledge, right?
yeah.
The more I watch them and the more followers they are, they're monetizing their profiles,
Mm,
right? And their
yeah.
channels. The thing with YouTube too is I see YouTube kind of becoming more of a media platform where everybody can develop their own channels or their own content. And when you have someone like an attorney or an artist or a chef, right? You almost become your own brand and have your own media channel on YouTube. And that's where I think YouTube is so unique in terms of long form content because you can develop your own private channel.
Right.
So for me, it's really about taking what you know, what you love, or what and turning it into a unique platform that you can't get anywhere else. I can go and watch cable TV, but I'm
Yeah.
not going to get the content that I really want. My nephew, who's a Gen Zer, all YouTube is his media platform.
Mm,
He
mm,
watches the things that he likes. Those are the creators that he watches, and he watches their channels, right? And he subscribes to them. So, they're monetizing it based on having subscribers that go through the subscription platform for them.
right.
So I think it's just starting, and I think it's evolving
Yeah.
into something completely customized and unique.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's what's so exciting about it because I've been on social media for quite a few years now. And recently, of course, like we're on YouTube right now, and I've been really focusing on building my brand on YouTube. But
Mhm.
I was thinking about like, oh, I've been creating content for so long, but it's so crazy because there are so many new like features and different ways to monetize just arising as social media grows and as even more creators get on the platforms, right? Because I know also a lot of people think that you can only get paid or get monetized through the social media platform, like through YouTube and the partner program and TikTok and everything. But of course, everything that we talked about on this interview was really creating like your own digital product
Mhm.
and selling your own thing because once again, yes, you can get paid through these like social media platforms, but at the end of the day, you always want to be in control of your own income too, right? The same thing.
Correct.
That's why you're leaving corporate or you want to leave corporate and start your own thing because you want to be in charge of your own destiny and you want to do your own thing. So I think that's one of the
Yeah.
biggest takeaways I got from you and just from this interview is too, like when you are starting your brand on social media, like yes, like do what you want to do in terms of like monetizing, but also be smart about how you're really diversifying
Mhm.
your income streams. Because at the
Mhm.
end of the day, once again, like right now when we post this, like TikTok may or may not be banned in the
That's
US,
exactly right. That's
right?
exactly right. Right. You want to be able to capture those customers and
Yeah,
capture like their emails and capture that audience so they become your audience and
yeah,
not TikTok goes away or is banned and you've just lost everybody.
yeah,
So yeah.
yeah. Like building your
Yeah,
own
and that's the whole
audience.
process, the whole marketing process, which again is a whole other video.
Yeah, we
So
might have to do a whole nother one on that
we'll do a part two
specifically.
down the road.
Yeah, yeah. Comment below part two if you want me to bring Christina back specifically for marketing and everything. Maybe we'll do a part two with her. But this was awesome, Christina.
Thank you.
I want to wrap it up, but before I do, what are you focusing on now? Because I know you've talked about everything that you've done, after leaving corporate for the last few years. What is like your main project and what are you focusing on this year?
Well, it's funny because this is, I've been going down this route, and as much as I like it, it was my career. Is it really my passion? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
As you know, I speak four languages. I have traveled the globe, and I love to travel. So guess what? My next endeavor, as I'm using all of this to sustain myself, right? My next endeavor is really going into travel and becoming a travel advisor, travel planner. It is something that I've actually done for friends who
Yeah.
have said, why don't you do this for a living? Because you're flipping amazing at it, right? And I love to travel. So I'm kind of going down that road. And I'm just now, with some guidance from you, starting to really think about what does my brand look like. So came up
Yeah.
with that brand name, and now I'm really kind of going through, okay, what is my content? Who is my target market? And what is my content? That's actually what I'm working on right now. So for the future, I may completely transition out of product and marketing and go straight into travel.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
Thank you.
And the crazy part about this too is everybody, like when she's now going into the industry of travel, she's going to take everything she learned and build this entire new brand and business. And that's like the beauty. I think that's like truly the beauty of entrepreneurship is as you learn it, as you take the skills from your corporate job or whatever you're even doing on social media, you can
Right.
always start something new. Like you can always do something different.
Mhm.
So that also goes to show like just because you're picking maybe like one niche or one industry does not mean you can't change it and do something else. But that's awesome. I'm so
Yeah.
excited for you.
Thank
What
you.
is the business name that you chose? Because I'm going to drop your handles in the description so people can follow you as you're growing this new
Ye-
brand.
So the content is not yet there, but the handles are there.
Yes.
So my personal, if you wanted to see, is Bougie Soul, Bougie Soul, all one word. That's my personal. This one is going to be Lush Travel. So the handle is
Ooh, I love
Lush
it.
Traveler. So it's one L. Lush Traveler is the handle. It's on TikTok, it's on YouTube. So are my two like main platforms right now. But it'll be going further after that. I'll be expanding it in the next week or
Yeah.
two.
That's awesome. That's so
Yeah,
exciting. Well, I'm
thank
gonna
you.
drop all your handles in the description so people want to connect with you, follow you, all the things they can. So one last question before we wrap it up, because I always ask this question to everybody that I interview. So, Christina, you've done so much in your life in corporate, leaving corporate, doing it on your own. What makes you unforgettable?
Ooh, love it. Um, well, every experience in my life has made me 100% completely unique, right? Versus everyone else. And I think that my ability to reach out, connect with people, um, be resourceful enough to figure all this out on my own. I think it's really for me, like, what is my legacy? What makes me unforgettable? I think it's that. It's like being a connector, love reaching out to people, and I love building great experiences for people. And I think that to me is what would make me unforgettable.
I love that. I love that. I think what also came out of that for me was like you really had the courage to do so many different things and try different things even when you didn't know how. So I love that so much. Thank you
It's
so
funny
much.
that it's funny you say that because then I really think about it. If I ask, friends, and I say, listen, what is it about me? The first thing they will ever say is you're fearless,
Hmm.
100% fearless. And I think that's sometimes what it takes just to get out there and get out of your own head.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Christina, for coming on today. Everybody that's
Thanks.
watching, comment below. Let us know what was your number one takeaway. And once again, if you want Christina to come back for part two. But that is all we have for today. So until next time, make sure that all of you stay unforgettable.